This is part 5 of LINQ to SQL tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss using stored procedures to perform insert, update and delete. This is continuation to part 4. In part 4, we discussed using stored procedures to perform a select. The first step here is to create the insert, update and delete stored procedures. So let's flip to SQL Server Management Studio. And here I have the transact SQL code to create the insert, update and delete stored procedures. I'll have this entire SQL available on my blog in case you need it. Now let's execute this code and let's refresh the stored procedures folder. Notice we have all the stored procedures created. Now let's go back to Visual Studio and then within the Server Explorer, refresh the stored procedures folder. Notice that we have all the stored procedures there. Now let's drag and drop the stored procedures onto the LINQ to SQL class designer surface. So delete employee, insert employee, and update employee. Now notice that for each of the stored procedure, there is a respective C# function created automatically. Now all that is left is to map these functions with this employee entity. So anytime we are performing an insert, update or delete of an employee, we want to use these methods, which in turn are going to call these stored procedures. Right? So we need to configure that behavior, and in order to do that, simply right click on the employee entity and select configure behavior option. So here the class is going to be employee, the behavior that we are configuring is insert, and instead of using runtime, we want to customize that and use insert employee method. And look at this, the LINQ to SQL class does a pretty good job in terms of mapping the method arguments with the class properties. So map the department ID method argument with department ID class property. Similarly, first name to first name, gender, last name and salary. So click apply. So we have configured the insert behavior. Let's configure the update behavior. So here we want to use update employee, and again the mapping is done. And finally we want to configure the delete behavior, and we want to use delete employee. Apply, click OK. So we have configured this now. So within the code behind file, we don't need to do anything. So let's go ahead and run this application, and let's fire up SQL Profiler to make sure the stored procedures are being called. Let's run a new trace. Now first let's get data. So at the moment we have 7 employees there. Let's insert a new record. So the ID is 9. Let's go back to SQL Profiler and look at this. We should have insert stored procedure call. Look at that, insert employee stored procedure is called, and for those parameters, these are the values that are supplied: Tim, day, male. Alright, so insert stored procedure is called. Now let's go ahead and update an employee. So we want to change Tim's salary from 55,000 to 65,000. We have already returned that code in the previous video sessions. So let's click update. Now we have an error here. That's, I think, basically because it's trying to load an employee with the ID 8. But if you look at the data that we have here, we don't have any employee with the ID 8. That's why it throws that error. So let's quickly fix that. So now the employee that we actually want to edit is the one with ID 9. So let's change the ID there, and let's also change it within delete click. Alright, so let's go ahead and run this one more time. Our SQL Profiler is still running. Let's clear this trace and let's get data, and let's update Tim's record. So notice that 65,000. Now let's go back to SQL Profiler. We should have the update employee stored procedure called. So let's clear this trace again. Now let's go and delete employee. So it should delete Tim's record. Stop the trace, and look at that, delete employee stored procedure is called. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.